Hey everyone, thanks for being with me today. We're going to be in Luke chapter 6, specifically verses 39 and 40. Before we get there, let me give you a little context about what Jesus is teaching through in this particular passage. He's actually talking about judgment. He is talking about the fact that he equips us as his followers not to have a spirit of judgment, but to have a spirit of grace. He doesn't want us to look upon other people, those that think the same as us and those that think differently than us, and have that spirit of judgment or that authority complex. Instead, he wants us to allow the Holy Spirit to work in and through us to extend grace, to extend light into the darkness in hopes that he can draw people to himself so that they can experience freedom and hope that's found in Jesus. Sometimes we do this thing where we look at the sinfulness of somebody, whether they think the same as us or not. We look at the sinfulness of somebody and we compare and contrast. We look at our own mess and our own baggage, and if we think it's less than somebody else's, well, we think, man, I'm so grateful that I'm not as sinful as that person. That's the type of stuff that Jesus is talking about. In this particular parable is a fictional story that's got some truth thrown into it. He refers to himself as a teacher. He also refers to us as students. Students are those that are in process. They're learning some things. They're developing in a certain subject matter. The teacher is a person that's a little bit further along in that development. There are people that have lived a little bit more life and have a firmer understanding of a certain subject matter, and they want to impart a little bit of wisdom into the life of the student so that they can move a little bit further down the field as they're beginning to understand a certain topic. This is what it says in verse 39. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? See, Jesus is telling a story, and we can easily identify this story because a blind man is going to look for help from somebody who has their sight. As they cling to the person that has their sight, that sees all things, like God, right? As the blind man clings to the person that sees, it develops in them a little bit of confidence. It develops in them a little bit of stability, a little bit of a foundation to face the world around them because they lean into the fact that this person has a gifting, has an understanding that they do not have. And so Paul writes about this in one of his books about the fact that he will boast all the more gladly in his weakness, because in his weakness the strength of God shines through, because God is the all-knowing, all-creative, all-powerful being that creates everything and sustains everything and knows everything. And so why wouldn't we want to lean into him to help us navigate the world around us, to help us to learn, to help us to see, to help us to grow? In verse 40, it says, a student is not above his teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like his teacher. I remember being a basketball player in high school. I had a coach that wanted me to shoot 100 hook shots from 4 different positions, and he would have me do that every single day. And because I'm the achiever type, I wanted to make every single shot, and I never did. But the question started to bounce around in my mind of, when have I fully arrived? When am I, as this passage says, when am I fully trained? And I got to the point in my training that I realized I'm never fully arrived. See, Jesus, through the power of the Holy Spirit in us, is going to give us some gifts. He's going to develop some things in us. The Bible calls those the fruit of the Spirit. As the Spirit works, certain things, certain characteristics start to build in who we are because of everything that Jesus has done for us. But God does not demand perfection. Jesus already took care of that. He is the perfection that has been placed on us, so that when God looks upon us, he doesn't see us in our frailty. He doesn't see us in our brokenness. He sees us in our wholeness because of the perfection of Jesus in our lives, because he extended that great gift to us. But he desires to work in and through us to impact the world around us. And if we're so hung up on judging people who think differently or act differently than us, how are we ever going to extend his grace and his forgiveness into a world that desperately needs it? When Jesus commands his disciples to go and make disciples of the nations, baptizing them, he doesn't tell them to go in their own strength or go in their own authority. No, he says, all authority has been given to me, so go in that strength, and in that authority and share with this world about a person, about a God, about a being who has changed who you are and how you operate. As the Holy Spirit works in and through us, we begin to work out some of that fruit into the world around us. When Jesus interacts with the woman at the well and tells her everything about her life, she runs back to the village that she came from, and she doesn't have every theological argument figured out. She doesn't know anything except for the fact that she interacted with someone who was different, somebody who was powerful, someone who spoke with authority, somebody who extended grace, somebody who gave her the time of day when nobody else would. And she spoke of this story of this person and how he worked in her life, and the whole village was drawn back to this person because of her story. You and I are given a story. You and I are given grace, not to just hold it deep in our chest so that we feel better about our own brokenness. No, so that we can extend it into a world that desperately longs for it, whether they realize it or not. My friends, we are not meant to judge. We're meant to discern because of the Holy Spirit working in and through us. But we are also meant to extend that grace. We're meant to allow the Holy Spirit to work in and through us so that Jesus can do what only Jesus can do, and that is change a heart and redeem a life for his glory so that he can work in and through that person to touch many more lives. You never know how God is going to use you today, so be open to it and extend that grace fully. My friends, it was great being with you, and we'll see you next time.